Hello, friends. Welcome back to Stylist Soul Tribe Conversations. I am joined today by Jolene and Kristi from the Summa Collective. With over 30 years of combined experience in the finance industry, these ladies have partnered to deliver modern financial services designed to help beauty brands grow through bookkeeping, payroll, and tax solutions. Their mission is to make accounting approachable, empowering, and a catalyst for sustainable success. Hello, ladies. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. Like I said, we have two people here. We have Kristi and we have Jolene. We're doing a masterclass inside of Stylist Soul Tribe Mastermind on November 18th next month. I would love for this episode to be almost like the prequel, the intro, so that when we do masterclass next month, we can really dive in and dig in. So I would love for both of you to briefly introduce yourselves, and then we can kind of see how your individual stories came to create the Summa Collective, and we'll kind of dive into all of that. So Jolene, if you want to kick us off, I would love a little intro.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much for having us. So excited to give back to your community and educate. I'm a huge proponent of education, and so I just love spreading the good word. I am Jolene Fleming. I am one of the managing partners here at Summa Collective. I have been in the accounting industry for over 20 years. I don't like to say that because then I feel like it truly shows my age, but I just love all things numbers and finance. I started out in-house in accounting for small businesses, and it's just grown from there. And I went out and worked actually as an employee of another accounting firm. Oh my gosh, it's been about 10 years ago. And I really liked that model because I could help many small business owners versus just being in the office and helping one small business. Working in an accounting firm really allowed me to guide and help more business owners. So I actually acquired the firm that I was working for in 2021. And then in 2022, split off. I had about 20 hair and beauty industry clients, and I split those off into the Summa Collective and brought Kristi on with me as my partner. And one, that was the best decision that I ever made for my business, and
Awesome.
our businesses in general, is bringing her on as a partner. And so since then, we've really focused on Summa and growing it to really hone in and support beauty industry business owners. When you look at the two of us, I am more the generalized numbers nerd accountant. I like to dig into a good spreadsheet and analyze the financials and analyze the data, interpreting what the IRS says. And then Kristi, she kind of is like, okay, that's really great, but what does that look like in real life, operationally? We really make a good team when we're also supporting our clients from that business aspect, because we kind of bring both sides of the coin when we're advising and mentoring our clients.
Oh, that's so beautiful. I am always, when I hear partnerships, I'm always a little intrigued. I've heard a lot of not successful partnership stories, but I think what you just said there is when you guys balance each other really well, when one has one strength, when you guys compensate for each other's weaknesses and strengths. So that's amazing. Kristi, would love a little intro from you, a little bit of your background, and then maybe how you and Jolene met as well. That would be amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. So yes, thanks for having us today. We love being able to just nerd out and share all of our world with everybody. But
Heck yeah.
a little bit about myself is, like Jolene, I've been in the industry for about 20 years now. I started off in hospitality, actually in the wedding and event space. And so I was in-house accountant as well for a catering company in the Seattle area. Then I moved up in that company and I became the general manager. And so I learned everything from the accounting side and the finance side, but then I worked really closely with the ownership and learned a lot to what there is to owning a business and managing, 100 plus team members and a
Yeah.
lot of facets to that. And then COVID hit, and they were bought out actually by a larger corporate company. And I thought that would be a wonderful growth path for myself. But then I quickly learned corporate life is not for me. I love
So
small
I've heard.
business.
I've never been in that
Yes.
world, but so I've heard.
Yes. So I thought it'd be fun. I pictured myself in like a pantsuit and, real official. But no, not my world at all. Because I really understood what it was like to be a small business owner, that perspective of how stressful finances are and how stressful, like stressing about your finances, but like operationally is how are we showing up at business as a business? How do we get more business? Things like, employee management, things like that. And I loved that part. So I went out on my own after realizing corporate wasn't great for myself. And so I went on my own, just like, okay, I'm going to just do this until I figure out what's next. And so I just did accounting for small business on the side. And then I got connected with a online CEO like mastermind group and thought, okay, I think I'll dive into this. Maybe this isn't like a side hustle. Maybe I'll build my own business. I had owned before the catering company as well, my own chain of coffee stands. So I think
Awesome.
maybe I'll go back to my own. Then I met Jolene actually in that
In a
mastermind group.
mastermind, I love to hear a story
Yes.
like that as a mastermind leader myself. I love to hear
Yes,
that.
that's
Yeah.
where it happened.
Uh,
But we found out that we were local to each other. So this was a nationwide, actually not even nationwide, like there's people in Canada and
Worldwide.
other
Yeah.
countries in there. So worldwide mastermind group. And we realized we're 20 minutes from each other. So we
So
started meeting once a
serendipitous.
month.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And just, sharing business stories and things like that once a month for lunch. And then I don't know, it was about a year into that we're like, sharing stories of running business and understanding each other's businesses that we're like, maybe we should go into business together and branch off the beauty clients from her firm. So that's what we did. So collectively, we have 3 firms between us that niche in different industries, but Summa is like her and I's like favorite. Don't tell the others, but
Like,
The
hopefully
golden
nobody
child,
catches
yeah.
this. That's so
but it's just, I love working with this industry. It reminds me a lot of the wedding and event because it's so creative and mostly extroverts, and they just want to serve people and have a good time and make people feel good. And I
Yeah.
love that about catering. It was always hustle and bustle and not your typical accounting job. And so like Jolene said, I really enjoy the numbers, but I'm good at them. But what I really enjoy is using that information on how do we run a business and what does that
Totally.
look like. So I haven't run a hair salon, so I don't know that from personal experience, but I do know what it's like to have a brick and mortar in-person business. You have clients coming in, you have a big team to manage, but the back end is still happening and you don't let people know what's happening on the back end. You still have to give really good client experience. So that's where her and I are, that yin to the yang really is. I love to say, okay, like, how do we make this happen? Or what are our finances telling us to make this happen? So that's where her and I
Amazing.
really match up well.
That is so amazing. I know we're here to talk to beauty pros, but now out of curiosity, I have to know what the other industries are as well.
Oh,
Yeah,
yes.
my other firm specializes in construction and service trade. So like
Okay.
very polar opposite.
Love. That's me and
But
my
like,
husband. It works.
right. And that's how I originally got like so many beauty business owners
I
is
believe it.
I
A
was in the
cosmetologist loves a blue collar worker. That's just
yeah,
how it
right. So it's like I
goes.
had all these construction business owners, and they're like, oh, my wife needs help. Like she runs a
Too
salon.
funny. Yeah.
My experience in house was with large construction firms, so
Okay.
multi-million dollar construction firms. I love that side of it too, because especially for me as a like accountant brain, like it's so
Yeah.
black, like the clients that I work with are so black and white.
I bet.
And it's where my experience is, so it's so easy. But
Yeah.
like Kristi said, Summa's kind of like our golden child. One, because we get to do it together. I mean, we've obviously since then bled into each other's businesses so
Totally.
much just because we do work so well together. Really supporting a majority of women business owners in the beauty
Love.
industry. We do obviously have male owned salons and behind the chair, but the majority are women. And as women business owners ourselves, we just love empowering them
Yeah.
to really understand their numbers and be money smart, right?
Yeah.
And just make a name for themselves, make money for themselves. And it's just so empowering. So,
Yeah. I mean, I'm also biased, but the industry, I feel like spoiled every day. I've never been part of other industries, so it's hard for me to say, but it is just so fun. The beauty industry is just such a good one to be in, and I agree with that. It doesn't feel like work. Everyone feels so connected, especially like these little corners and these pockets of the industry. It's like I would do this for free. I get to make money doing this. This is so cool. And it's funny that you said that, Kristi, about the wedding industry because I just got off of a week in Denver and we had, well, Denver, then to Winter Park, Colorado. I had my annual Stylist Soul Tribe retreat and my event planner, who I've worked with for 4 years now, she's typically a wedding event planner, but she has become my ride or die for these retreats. And we've just become like friends through the planning process. And then Giselle, our videographer, has become one of us. So it's really interesting for them to hear the breakthroughs happening with stylists and then almost like filter it through. It's all the same, like business,
Yes.
service-based business.
Biz-
And then if you want to talk about numbers, I mean, it's no difference if you're doing someone's hair or you're taking their picture or you're, reconciling their books. It's all just serving people. And I very much agree with that. Just women-owned businesses, I'm very drawn to as well. So I would love to know, and it sounds like it was mostly Jolene. So if you want to be the one to answer this question, or jump in, Kristi, if you want, when did you decide to go beauty based? Like, when did you decide to like go industry specific, and why? And if there's anything you want to unpack there, I'm just curious.
Yeah, so like Kristi and I both mentioned, like I already had like a really like substantial book of business of beauty of hairstylists.
And that just happened by
It
chance?
just happened naturally,
Okay.
right? Like my hairstylist moved out from W2 to behind the chair, right? And she was like, there's no way that I'm even gonna think about doing this unless you'll help me, right? And so
Yeah.
then it kind of snowballed from there, right? The beauty industry and hairstylists is like they're very tight
Connected and we talked.
networking. So it
Yep.
kind of just snowballed from there. She owns a salon now. So she
Mm.
went from W2 to behind the chair to salon owner.
What a
And she's
great
like,
case study for you too, though, to watch
yeah,
that growth.
yeah, so true. I didn't even think about that. But
Absolutely.
and she said on multiple occasions, like, I would not be able to have done this and lived this dream that I had without your support and our team, honestly, right? Because we do
Totally.
have a team, but just that finance support, because what we see, right, is, and I'm sure you know this, is creative brain and logical math brain are
Totally.
completely opposite sides of the brain.
Yeah.
And so a lot of beauty business owners, and not all, because we've worked with some very, very
Type
involved
A.
business owners, and but a lot of them, this is it's a an area of fear, right? Like
Totally.
I don't understand it. I'll never understand it. So I'm just going to put my head in the sand and
Mhm.
ignore it. And that is the worst thing you can
Mm.
do.
Yeah.
So like you said in our intro, is like we like to make finances approachable,
Mm.
because if you're running a business, whether that's just you behind the chair or you're running a salon, you need to know your numbers and you need to be
Totally.
looking at your numbers. Otherwise, your business is going to take control of you, and nobody wants that.
Absolutely. And we didn't learn that side in beauty school. So unless you choose to go to school and learn business savvy and business skills elsewhere, that's just not something that we're equipped with. And then we come into this industry and see success. And I know exactly what you're saying about the digging the head in the sand. Before we hit record, Kristi mentioned something that you guys heard at a hair show last weekend. Why don't you unpack that like mind-blowing statistic, and then maybe share a little bit when beauty pros do start to work with you, what are some like common maybe pitfalls, or if somebody's listening to this and they're like, yeah, I don't get numbers, I don't like numbers, I avoid it, or I try to, but it makes me feel stupid and I don't like the way that feels, or I don't even want to go, get help with this because I feel so ashamed by how much I don't understand this. I would love to hear your thoughts, Kristi.
Yeah, so we were just in Spokane, Washington at the Hair Symposium, and one of the speakers was sharing statistics for the industry. And so, of course, that's like Jolene and I are like perking up, like, what are
Mm-hmm.
these stats? Because we just love, KPIs
Dirty
and
to me, right?
statistics. But
Mm-hmm.
the one that really, I guess it was two actually that stood out. So it was 5% of salons are actually profitable, only 5%. The second one was of the five that their profit is 5%,
Whoa.
5% profit. And so immediately I was like Rolodexing in my mind, like, because we have a KPI dashboard that we do with all
Mhm.
financials. And so I was like picturing each one of those spreadsheets of our KPIs, like, are
Like that
ours
puts you to the
five?
top 0.1%. Yeah.
Like literally, like I swear I just had a call with someone and it was like 22%. And we look at averages. And so we know what your average is. We know what this last month was or this last quarter was. And so we immediately pulled up spreadsheets of our actual clients and we looked, and thank God I don't is, and so now we're going to dig into this is the why, but our clients
Mhm.
aren't struggling a vast majority of our clients are profitable.
Mm-hmm.
And the ones that are, it's beyond 5%. And I don't want to say that that's strictly because they work with us, but I do think that the clients that are working with us, they are actively participating in their finances. And when I
Mm-hmm.
say that, it's not like they're not doing a lot, but they're showing up. They're looking at their profit and loss that we're sending them. They're take any call that they can take advantage to have with Jolene and I or one of
Well,
us, they're hopping on that call.
and they're also delegating it to someone that knows what they're doing, which is huge.
Exactly.
It feels like they're not doing much, but they are doing such a huge thing by choosing to do that. So it doesn't surprise me that you end
Very
up at the
true.
top 0.001%. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think the common thought process, and I just talked with someone about this at the show that we were at this weekend, is, well, we can't afford it. And the reality is it's dependent upon where you're at in revenue. Maybe that's true, but there's ways to still get this done if you're not at that point of a proper point of revenue. And we would tell a client, we would not sign anyone up for services that it didn't make financial sense for them. We would find an appropriate solution. But salons that are making enough money that we know that it's, in my opinion, it's an essential service because
Mm-hmm.
what you gain from making that initial upfront investment, and sometimes it takes repivoting where our spending is going. And I think that's one of the biggest, to answer your question, is like one of the biggest things that we see when clients first come on is a lot of either their personal and business finances aren't separate. So that's what we call commingling. That's happening. And so it's really hard to tell what you are or aren't making from the business. And then even if you keep it separate, that there's still personal spending happening in out of the business account or on the business credit card. And that is probably the most predominant thing that sticks out when we first bring a client on is that's what you're paying yourself is all those small transactions add up to what you could be paying yourself in a lump sum transfer. And our biggest win is redirect the payment method to your personal payment method and then pay those off your personal. That gets you even like the shame that comes from I can't afford to pay myself. I can't afford to pay myself, so I let alone can't afford to pay an accountant to handle my bookkeeping and everything. But the reality is most of them already are. It's just a spending
Mm-hmm.
habit. And so the huge confidence boost and win that happens when you transfer money from the business in a lump sum to your
Mm-hmm.
personal account is like, I am paying myself. And you
Mm-hmm.
choose a starting number and then working with that's able to grow.
Yeah,
But that's a win. Like I actually am paying myself and just
absolutely.
getting a little, I guess just repivoting and reorganizing what's already happening and getting more clarity in what those finances are, being able to really see what the business is making and what the business is actually spending on business things.
Mm.
And then being able to like analyze that. That's where Jolene and I love to be like, okay, what's happening here? Like, let us
Yeah.
in. And one final thing too is like the shame thing. Like we all have our zone of genius and there's things that we can brush our skills up on. And I think as a business owner is to stop telling yourself that you just don't get it and
Mm.
push through that feeling of I feel stupid or I don't understand it and push through and ignore that first
Mm.
line of thinking and those feelings and do it anyways. When you do it anyways, what happens on the other side of pushing through that is like big success and clarity
Absolutely.
and solid sleep at night
Mm.
and big wins. And so we like to see clients be able to just push that through that and make that commitment to themselves. And that's what we're here to do.
Like that's okay. It's not
Right.
shameful that you don't know how to braid your hair. Yeah.
So like we all aren't good at something and
Mm.
we looked cute, we still showed up and like we did it, right? And we're like, oh my gosh, they're all gonna look so cute. But like we did it anyways and we own it. We're the accountants that stand out in the crowd and but granted, we still love hair, makeup, and all the things, but just
Totally.
not to a professional degree. Know that about us. What comes natural to you isn't coming natural to us. And like, I'm happy to go pay and have someone tell me what to do with my hair and make it,
Yeah.
great. So just do it anyways.
Love, love. Well, both of your hair looks great, so I can tell that you guys do invest back into that.
Yes,
No,
we
I
invest in
think
all the things.
I was trying so hard not to interrupt you. The way that you put that was so eloquently put together. And what was coming up to me when you were saying it is I think there's so much just identity, like concrete, solid identity. I don't get that. I don't do that. I don't know that. And I'm so into just like mindset work, woo, law of attraction. And it like kills me when I hear people just make concrete blanket statements like that, because they're just choosing to that and so it will be, and so it will be. And if you continue to do that, you blink and 10 years go by and 20 years go by, and the investments you could have had by then and the way your life could be so different. So I do think, I hope that people heard that, just acknowledging that identity today and saying it's okay that I don't know this, but I am going to be someone who seeks that out. And like you said, that initial discomfort, on the other side of that comes so much empowerment. Like it, nothing feels better than finally getting something that made you feel so small and so confused previously. So we were also talking about maybe diving into like profit and loss statements, looking at your finances. Maybe Jolene, if you want to jump in from here, because I know the masterclass that we're going to do is going to even expand further upon this. But let's start with just like the basic of basic statements, to give the stylist listening just like a little value takeaway immediately, knowing that we'll unpack that even deeper next month.
So when we're looking at a profit and loss, right? And one thing that I encourage you is, if, or your listeners, right? If any of you guys are working already with a financial professional, an accountant, or a bookkeeper, and you're not getting reports on a regular basis, ask, right? Like
What do you
everybody,
consider regular?
not a year, right? So we hear a
Okay.
lot like, I don't know what my numbers are till the end of the year, getting my
Filed, yeah.
taxes.
Mhm.
Absolutely, like, no, we're not doing that, because now you're just stuck in a reactive state. You're not looking at your numbers throughout the year. You can't make changes. And we know like cost of things is getting it to live is getting more expensive, right?
Yeah.
So gloves and foil and color, everything's getting more expensive. And if you're not looking at your numbers on a routine basis, those costs are going to continue to rise. And if your revenue does not rise to meet that, and you
Yeah.
don't look at your numbers till the end of the year, you've been working all year, and for what, right?
Yeah.
So I would say at the least quarterly, right? So we
Okay.
do have a quarterly package for some of our stylists who are just starting out, because that's better than nothing, right? And
Yeah.
so quarterly is better than nothing. We always recommend at least monthly, right?
Okay.
So monthly is ideal that you're
Mhm.
looking at those. So like with our top 2 tier packages, they do get those financials on a monthly basis so that they can review them. What we hear a lot is like, either my accountant doesn't send me reports, or they send me reports and I just don't look at them because I don't know
Mhm.
how to read them.
Yeah.
So, and a lot of accountants don't offer that level of support. We're
Mhm.
not just like hairstylists, right? Our services are not all the same. How we run our firm and the deliverables that we provide our clients is not going to be the same if you're working with another accounting firm. So you might want to ask them if they provide these services or these deliverables. They might say yes, they might say no. There's also, like, I always like to explain it as 2 buckets, right? Like we're dealing with, like when you think about like real bookkeeping, we're dealing with data that's already happened. We're categorizing transactions, we're reconciling bank accounts, we're looking at your point of sale, whether that's Square, Vagaro, Boulevard,
Mhm.
Forest, whatever that is. That's all already happened, right? So it's still important to look at those numbers because they are telling you a story of what's happened in your business. But there's also accounting firms that do some of that more forward thinking too. And that's where Kristi and I really dive in with our clients, is that more forward thinking, right? And so we're saying, okay, based on what the numbers are telling us, what does that mean moving
Mhm.
forward? We're pivoting in our business. We're expanding a second location, or we're moving from booth renters to W2. So more of that forward thinking stuff.
It's almost like being on offense versus defense,
Yeah,
choosing where we're going from here, not just reacting to what has
yeah.
already happened.
Exactly. And some accountants and CPAs and bookkeepers, right? Whatever title you want to put on the industry, they don't provide that because they don't either want to, they don't enjoy it, they don't have the experience to do it, or they just don't, it's just not their business model. So
Totally.
we're not all built the same. So I always encourage, everybody, if you already have an accountant and you're not getting what you need from them, to ask them if they can support you with what you're wanting. And if not, that's okay too, right? So what helped you in the past to get where you're at might not be what serves you in the future.
Totally.
That's no like harm to where you've been and who you've been working with. But as businesses grow, as business owners grow, like our needs and the support that we need changes as well. So it's
Yeah, the
never like
both.
the
Mhm.
wrong time to like make a change. But I digress, right?
No, that's so good. I
Yeah.
completely agree.
Yeah, so looking at your financials and we always send, the standard financials, a profit and loss and a balance sheet. And so the profit and loss is going to take, your revenue that you're making minus all your expenses and to give you your profit at the end of the day, where your balance sheet is more giving a snapshot in time of like the health of your business. So it's not as important as far as analyzing your financials from like a cash flow perspective or a growth perspective, but still an important financial to have, especially if you're an entity and want to do, bank financing and all that stuff. So still needed, but just not as
Totally.
important. And when we really dive in with our clients, no matter what level of service you're in, you get the profit and loss. And then we actually do specific metrics that we look at. Kristi kind of touched base on this a little bit earlier, but specific metrics that we're looking at month over month, quarter over quarter, and looking at the trailing 12 so that we can see any seasonality changes, try to address issues before they spike and catch them when they're starting. So when we're looking at revenue on your top line, and so we're looking at, service revenue, retail revenue, education revenue. So one thing that we like to keep out of that revenue line is tips, because I never want to project into the future based on tips because, they're not required. If you project on tips and then we see a lot when the economy suffers, tips is the first thing. So we always like to kind of keep those as bonus, right? At the end of the day, just like if you were paying out a team member, the tips that team member gets is going to go right back to the team member.
But
So
they're truly treated as an added bonus. Yeah.
yeah, we're really not wanting to like include those tips in cash flow. The other thing that we see mistaken a lot in that top line number of revenue, because what we see is stylists, if they don't have a bookkeeper or they're not getting financial statements, they'll just jump into their software and look at, okay, how much money did I bring in? Right. So just
What's the
looking
biggest number I can find?
yeah, right. But one thing that we need to bring attention to, right, is that number includes tips. And that number could potentially include sales tax, depending on if you're selling retail and where you're located. And neither of those are real revenue, right? The sales tax, you're just going to have to turn around and pay right back to the state. So we keep that out of the top line. So it's just strictly money that you brought in from the services that you're performing or the retail that you're selling. So that's our top line revenue number. And then we get into direct costs. And what direct costs are costs that are directly associated with you performing your service on your clients. Color, foil,
towels.
So all that stuff that you are using directly to perform a service. If you're selling retail and you have to purchase that retail, that's a direct cost. So anything directly related to those two revenue lines, right? And then that gives you your revenue minus your direct cost gives you your gross profit. So that's one of the metrics that we look at with our clients on a routine basis. And then you get into your indirect costs, and indirect costs are all the other costs related to running your business licensing, business insurance, professional fees, lawyer fees, rent, utilities. If you have an employee and you're paying out payroll to those team members, that's going to be up there as well in your direct costs. And so then in your indirect costs then comes into play, like I said, all the other overhead, marketing, if you have a marketing team or if you're spending money on advertising, any of those things we call indirect costs. And so when you take your gross profit and take out, subtract your indirect costs, at the end of the day, that gives you your net profit. And net profit, like Kristi mentioned earlier, one of the very surprising key metrics we heard at the hair symposium this weekend is that only 5% of salons have a positive net profit at the end of the day. I was just, again, shocked.
And I guess the statistics probably do match how many cosmetologists, independent beauty businesses go out of business. I mean, I know that statistic is massive because, like, when you hear that, you're like, there's no possible way. How would people still be in business? But we do have such a high turnover industry. Yeah.
Yeah. And so looking at that more routinely, right, then at the end of the year, then we can identify, do we need to cut expenses? Do we need to raise prices? Kind of what does that look like? So that net income, at the end of the day, essentially I always like to say essentially, right? That's what you're going to be taxed on. Pay off debt, So really when we're working with clients, we're doing budgets, right? I like to work, this is where I come in. I work from the bottom up. So we talk about personal goals. How much personally do you need to make to bring home? How much personally do you want to save? How much do you want to have an emergency savings for the business? And so we come up with that number first, and then we kind of go up to the top and
Fill
get
it
to
from there.
revenue and like, okay, now here's your revenue goals, because if you want to meet those personal and business goals, this is what you have to make in revenue. And so
Yeah.
kind of flipping that upside down is one of my favorite
So
tools.
good. So
Yeah.
good. Anything you want to expand on that, Kristi, or did she kind of cover that?
I think you did a really good job, actually. Not actually, I know you would. But that, this, like she said, that's like her area of expertise. I like asking,
Yeah.
like, what are all the things? What do you want to do? What's happening in the business? So one of the metrics that we also track is if you have payroll, or if you're not, like if you're an owner and you're not on payroll, but you take owner draws. So that's like if you're not an S corp, essentially, is what are you taking home? So the metric is what's your percentage of payroll, how much goes out on payroll, or how much are you paying yourself, those types of things. But I think the fun part is to see there's so much, oh, that's what payroll costs. And then when you have a new hire come in and she wants a minimum of 50% commission, you're like, or not, you can or can't do that. And so, and you feel confident. And I think making those decisions, or you start seeing, wow, all those indirect costs are really high. It really sucks into it, because if things are really tight, the first thing we'll say is like, well, what can we strip down? Because your essentials truly are your direct costs. You have to, have those
Covered.
direct costs to be able to perform a service, whether it's
Yeah.
foil, any back bar product, those types of things. But can you negotiate with the vendor? Can you control, how much usage you're doing? And then it's like, well, what else are we spending on? Like, we consider an accounting essential service, but what else? How much is in salon decor? How many
Totally.
times have we
And even
redecorated?
online membership subscriptions. I
Continuing
mean, I know the
education.
people in my
Yeah.
world, they do bring in, but I do think there's so many people that are like, well, when I see that top dollar, that very, very top line, oh, I'm doing great, but then they have no money in the bank ever. And
Yeah.
so I think that that's where
Revenue is such a
comes in.
vanity number, right? Like it's
Yes.
so vanity. Like, yeah, you could be $1 million salon, which is sounds amazing, right?
Yeah.
But as we learned, your profit could be 5% of that, or
Yeah.
negative, right?
But
Yeah.
here's the exciting thing about that, though, is revenue can't, you like, salons bring in good money. If they don't, there's a lot of things that you can fix, right? Like less pricing, or that's like where your coaching program comes into play. Is we do all of this. We look at that P&L, and like Jolene said, we work backwards. Like, what are your goals? What's your net profit? What is currently happening? And then we kind of work backwards and say, okay, you would really need to make this much in revenue, and how many chairs you have, or are
Realization.
days that you want to be behind the chair, is that realistic? And there's so much more work to be done to figure out, like, okay, well, how do we drive that up? But the reality is they're really, most of them are bringing in good money. And so what I find very comforting and exciting about it is looking at your finances tells you where we can fix things to
Absolutely.
actually have you feel and live like you're bringing in the money you're actually bringing in.
Love, love. That's so good. And then I know for the masterclass next month, we're going to kind of take this, like I said, this was kind of the prequel to that, to the what we're going to talk about. And then we're going to break down either for an independent stylist and or somebody with a small team, how to figure out what that like break even baseline number is and then how to grow from there. So I'm very much looking forward to continuing this conversation on to that.
I'm like business development. So I do a lot of the sales, and I do I don't like to call them sales calls. I like to call them like get
You
to know
guys are growing
you.
a business all the while though, so it
Yeah.
takes entrepreneurship as well.
If you're scared and you don't know where you're at, or you're just starting to think about your numbers or work with a professional firm, it's never too late. Everyone always is, like you mentioned earlier, ashamed, right? And I'm like, trust me, I've always seen worse. I've been in this industry a very long time. I've worked with hundreds and hundreds of small business owners, and it's never too late. Like, you might feel like you're in a hole that you cannot dig yourself out of. You just need someone to reach a hand down. And so that's kind of where we come in, and is like,
Well,
yeah, you got yourself into this hole because you don't know how to get out, because this is not your zone of genius. This is not your lane, but it's ours. And so sometimes it's just reaching out that hand and having the courage and the aspiration to want better, to reach for that hand and take it. And some of our clients we've worked with for almost 10 years, right? And so it's fun to see them on their journey and where they started and where they are at now, and using those numbers to make informed decisions about their business, to say, can I hire this person? Can I expand? The space next to me just came available and I'm not ready to move into it yet, but I don't want someone else to grab it. So can I afford that additional cost without additional revenue right now? And when our clients are making those informed decisions using their numbers and feeling empowered is, lets me sleep at night. It
Super
fills
rewarding.
my cup. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So what does working with you ladies look like? Like I said, we're going to dive deeper into the masterclass, but somebody may be listening to this who isn't in Soul Tribe, and this might be the last of what they hear from you through my channel. So what does working with you guys look like? What's the best way to reach out? Obviously, I'll put any and all links in the show notes, but how can people find and connect with you? Kristi, if you want to take that.
Sure. You can find us on Instagram.
Okay.
Start with a DM there. I would say start on Instagram. Just start following us. Listen and watch for our tips and tricks of things and see. And then if you like our vibe, like book what we call a meet and greet consultation with us. It will be most likely with Jolene directly. And then we go from there. We get a feel for what you have going on in your business, a couple stages that we go through as far as bringing someone on as a client, just to see what package would be the best for you, and analyze those things and create a good game plan. But then once you're in with services with us, what that looks like is we serve 3 levels of business. And it's basically like how your business is structured. If you're behind the chair, individual stylists, booth rent type of scenario, or if you just moved into your own suite and now you brought on a second person and you're growing, that's our middle tier package where you have a team, and maybe that's hybrid. Maybe you have some booth rent going on and you have some employees, commission stylists. So then the top tier is you have a full robust salon, a large team. You've maybe been in business for quite a while, but you're looking at that expansion, or you're looking at getting out of behind the chair or going to one day, things like that. We handle everything from your bookkeeping, your payroll, and your tax filings. But what we also have is one-off strategy calls. So if you're not a recurring client with us and you need a sounding board, someone to just chat through a scenario with, we have a 45 and a 90-minute strategy session. It's a deep dive on whatever topic is like, or multiple topics, however many we can fit in, really. And so to book those, we have those available.
Awesome.
So you don't have to be a recurring client. And some of our clients, we have strategy calls built into the different packages, but sometimes they also book them because they have
Just a
another.
one-off. So I will link to your guys' website in the show notes, and everything can be found there. And as always, this is typically when I have guests an Instagram DM. We are real people. If you slide into our DMs, we will be there. So if you have any thoughts, any questions, or even if you guys just want to give feedback to Jolene and Kristi of like, that was super helpful. This part really opened my eyes. There was a light bulb moment for me. We love to get messages like that and hear that. Thank you, ladies. I'm very excited for our masterclass in November. I'm very excited to continue to collaborate and work together in the future. I think this is going to be a huge help to my community. And I just want to say, I think you guys are making a huge impact in this industry that has been so underserved in this space for so long. So from the industry as a whole, I want to say thank you for that, and for leaning into us specifically and noticing that blind spot there and coming in so judgment-free and so caring. It really is an incredible model you guys have created. Amazing. Like I said, everything will be in the show notes. Thank you again, ladies, and I will talk to you all on the next podcast episode. Bye.
Thank you.